Hello everyone and welcome to my knitting YouTube channel. Today I thought I would do something a little different than a regular podcast in the spirit of the new year. Happy New Year everyone. And I'm gonna go through 10 of my knitting bad habits and basically tell you whether they should be resolutions or absolution, as in I need to just forgive myself for doing this thing and not really worry about changing it. So that is what I'm going to do in this video. Hopefully just something short, fun, something for the girls to have fun and get ready to. Anyway, so yes, I have a list of 10 bad habits on my iPad, and I am going to make a what I knit in 2025 video. I really enjoy watching those and I want to make one, but right now I don't have the bandwidth, so I'm just gonna make this cute little video, and hopefully I'll be able to get it edited and uploaded sooner than, you know, like a month from now. So yes, that is my plan for this video. Before we begin, what would I like to say? Number one, what I'm wearing. I will talk about this either in my What I Knit in 2025 video or my next podcast, whenever that is, but this is a recently finished object. This is my Marae sweater. It is a pattern by Kiss Kiss Rhinestones, and I knit it in one strand of Knit Picks palette in white, held together with one strand of a hand-dyed mohair from Fiberology Dye Works in the shade To the People Who Look at the Stars and Wish. I knit the third size. There are 5 sizes, so it's not the most inclusive pattern. I knit the third size. Probably could have sized down, if I'm being honest with you, but I'm happy with how it fits regardless. And yeah, I just wanted a nice little basic set-in sleeve sweater to use this beautiful mohair that I picked up at the Kentucky Sheep and Fiber Festival last spring. And I talked a little bit about it in my previous podcast, which I just uploaded. So if you want more of an in-depth discussion, you can go look at it there. But yes, that's what I'm wearing. Second, I wanted to make this video because I think around the new year, we all have a tendency to think of things we want to change. And I think it's important to remember that not everything needs to be changed, right? Some things we can decide not to change and we can decide to just keep doing. So I have some bad habits that I have no intent of changing because I don't need to. That's kind of the intent of this video. It's not meant to be prescriptive, it's meant to be reflective. So if you do something that I say I want to change and you don't want to change that, that's fine. Live your life, okay? It's your knitting, it's your hobby, it's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to bring you joy. I'm not here to tell you what to do. That's not who I am. I'm only here to tell myself what to do. And even then, who knows if I'll even actually do it. So that's just a little disclaimer. I know I kind of hate when people are always disclaiming things at the beginning of their videos, but I just feel like sometimes it needs to be said because people can take things personally, and you know, I don't want anyone to feel like that. None of this is an attack on anyone but myself, okay? That's all. For this video, we're just gonna go through these bad habits that I have, and again, we're gonna decide whether it should be a resolution or absolution. Not to get like, I'm like not trying to get like religious about it, but I just wanted something that rhymed, as in absolution, like I should just absolve myself of these sins, okay? So sorry if anyone finds that sacrilegious. I just wanted something that rhymed. So without further ado, let's get into it. Oh, and I have my little tiny can of Diet Dr. Pepper here. Ugh. The most wonderful sound in the world. My first bad habit is that I don't always knit a gauge swatch if I am making a project that is all stockinette. For example, I did not knit a gauge swatch for this sweater. There are several other all stockinette projects that I did not make a gauge swatch for. this I feel might be controversial to some, because I know there are people out there who are like, you always need to be making a gauge swatch. You just always do. And for the most part, I agree, right? Because I think that if you're gonna spend so much time on a project, you want it to fit you the way you would like, right? I mean, that just is logical, that just makes sense. And the best way to do that is to knit and block your gauge swatch. Blocking gauge swatches is another topic later on. Anyway, so I do generally recommend knit a gauge swatch. However, when it comes to an all over stockinette project, especially if I'm knitting in either the recommended yarn or very close to the recommended yarn, and especially if it's a designer that I've knit from before, I don't always gauge swatch. For example, if I'm knitting something like a pattern by Petite Knit that's stockinette, I know that my gauge is pretty much gonna match hers in stockinette. And especially if it's something that isn't meant to be like a very precise fit. For example, a sweater like this, or basically any other like sweater that isn't like tight fitting, the gauge matters to an extent, but I also know for me, I'm not that bothered about it if my sweater is like an inch bigger or an inch smaller, right? If you are someone who doesn't want to always gauge swatch, that's fine. You just have to accept that sometimes things are going to turn out slightly different in size than you had anticipated, you know? So I think this one, honestly, I'm going to say absolution. I'm absolved. This is fine. I think it differs depending on the person, because if you're really picky about the way things fit, that's, you know, something you should pay attention to. For me, I'm not that picky. There's an airplane. I live very close to the airport, and it's a very active airport. So there are planes frequently, and they make my windows shake because I live in a house that was built in 1900. So things are a little, you know, they rattle. Anyway, habit number 1, not always making a gauge swatch for stockinette. Absolution. We're done. That's it. It's fine. Honestly, I feel like it's NBD. For me. Anyway, I feel like I have to offer so many disclaimers. I don't want the gauge swatch police to come after me. Okay. My second bad habit is not blocking my gauge swatches. And you guys might be surprised to hear my verdict on this one, given my verdict on the previous one, but I think this actually does need to be a resolution. And I'll tell you why. Because when I'm taking the time to make a gauge swatch, did I say that right? A gauge swatch? I want it to actually be useful. And if you're not blocking your gauge swatches, you're not getting an accurate gauge. So it's almost like you've wasted the time that you spent knitting the gauge swatch. And especially for things that are highly textured, anything like that, you really do need to block, because it will change with blocking. Usually when I block a gauge swatch, I just soak it in water. I don't like really wash it at all. And then I just lay it out on a flat surface. I don't pin it down or anything, because really the purpose of blocking the gauge swatch is just to see how the fabric itself kind of naturally reacts to blocking without any manipulation. I tend to leave my gauge swatches to dry on top of my heating vent. I don't know if this is safe, okay? So I'm not recommending it to you. That's just what I do. When I do take the time to make a full gauge swatch, because sometimes also like I'll just make like a little, I won't make a full, you know, I'll just knit like a little bit and be like, okay, this is fine. But when I do take the time to make a full one and block it, it makes me more excited about the project, because especially again, something with texture, I knit the gauge swatch, I block it, and I'm like, this is so beautiful. I'm so excited to have this finished object. For example, the swatch for my Moby sweater made me so excited to knit the sweater just because of how gorgeous it turned out. And I do think this is something that I just need to start doing. It doesn't take that much time. A gauge swatch will never take very long to dry because it's not very big, especially if you put it on top of your heating vent. Anyway, the fire marshal is gonna strike this video down. Okay, habit number 2, not blocking my gauge swatches. It's a resolution. In 2026, I will be blocking my gauge swatches. I promise. That's my promise to you, okay? It's gonna happen. All right, bad habit number 3 is leaving factory knots. You guys, this has to be a resolution. It has to be a resolution. And let me defend myself for a second. When I started knitting and crocheting also, because I crocheted before I learned how to knit, I didn't really know that you weren't supposed to leave factory knots, like that you were supposed to cut them out and join it as if it was like a new ball of yarn. I didn't know that was a thing. I always just assumed like, oh, I'll just kind of knit around it and like manipulate it so it's on the back of my work. And I've been trying not to do this recently. I really have. So I think moving into 2026, this really does need to be a proper resolution, is to just stop doing this, because the knot will come untied eventually, I fear. And also, if I'm gift knitting, I would never leave a factory knot. I would never, just because I think it looks kind of bad. But for myself, I'm a little bit less picky about those sorts of things, because I know like if something goes wrong, it's my own fault and I just have to accept that. But I think I need to value myself enough to be more careful with the things I make for myself. So maybe that's the real message here, is that you should take the same amount of care with knits for yourself as you do with gift knits. Anyway, so habit number 3, leaving factory knots, that's a resolution. That one needs to change. Habit number 4 is throwing things in the dryer post-blocking if they're a little bit big. And my verdict on this one, I'm gonna be real with you guys. Absolution. I think this is great. I think more people need to be doing it. In fact, I'm kind of an evangelist for this. Again, necessary disclaimers, be careful. But what I frequently will do is I'll block something and I'll be like, this is like a little bit baggier than I wanted, or maybe the sleeves have gotten a little bit too long post-blocking, or just something. And I'll just throw the finished object in the dryer for like 5 minutes, you guys. Don't overdo it, but I'll do like 5-minute increments. Obviously, this only works if you're using natural fibers, I think, for the most part. I've never tried it with like an acrylic really, but wool, alpaca, things like that, they will felt with heat, and the heat from the dryer in small doses will help shrink things down a little bit without like, they don't look felted. Like I threw this in the dryer after blocking and like it doesn't look felted or anything. It just got a little smaller, and like the fabric feels like slightly denser, but like not to a noticeable extent. You can still see the individual stitch definition and everything. And I think this is a great technique, a great option to make my objects as useful for me as they can be, because the better something fits, the more I'm gonna wear it. And if I'm spending a lot of time and money making something, I wanna wear it all the time. Number 5, bad habit number 5 is being a little bit lazy about yarn storage. And this needs to be a resolution, you guys, it does. And I think it needs to be a resolution for a lot of people, because the moths will come for you eventually. I generally am not the neatest, tidiest person at all times, right? My apartment is frequently quite cluttered. I have clothes on my bedroom floor, whatever. And I think that's fine. And I don't want to put shame on myself for that. However, when it comes to yarn and wool garments, you do have to be a little bit more cognizant because the moths, and also sunlight can fade the color and all of these things, whatever. I think I just need to be a little bit more fastidious about proper storage of my yarn and of my hand knit garments, and also other like store-bought garments I have that are natural fibers, because I have a few like cashmere sweaters that I think I just need to be generally a little bit more careful with, because again, these things are expensive. The hand knit ones, they take time. I think it's just worth being mindful. I'm gonna look into some kind of storage solution for my yarn this year that is sealed, because right now it's not in sealed containers, and I know that's not good because of the moths, yeah, the moths. So this one's not very exciting, I have to say. I don't have any hot takes. I don't have any words of wisdom. And I've never had any issues with fabric moths. Where's wood that I can knock on? But I am terrified of them. And anytime I see a bug in my house, I'm like, oh my God. Like I could literally see a fruit fly and be like, are you gonna eat my sweaters? No, they eat fruit. It's in the name. But I think it would be helpful for my mental stability and sanity if I knew that my wool was safe from the moths, and I wouldn't have to worry about it so much. I think it'd be very good for me. I think anyone who has any vested interest in my mental health will be happy with that development. So I just need to start doing that. So that, habit number 5, being lazy about storage, that's a resolution. We gotta fix that one. Habit number 6, not always using point protectors or needle stoppers or whatever you wanna call them. And this, absolution. Who cares? I mostly knit on wooden needles, so things are sticky, they don't slide off. I will use point protectors. I do have some really cute ones. I will use them if I feel like it's necessary, if it's a slippery yarn, if I'm using metal needles, if, you know, there's some other variable at play. But most of the time, honestly, I don't care. Especially if I'm just like leaving my work on my coffee table or my couch or whatever. Whatever, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Who cares? Habit number 6, not always using point protectors. Absolution, easy. Habit number 7 is that to an extent, I don't worry about my stitch count. And this I think also, absolution. Because here's the thing, if you're 1 stitch off in, again, like a stockinette pattern, who cares? Throw in an extra increase or decrease somewhere where it won't be visible and keep it pushing. Or honestly, even just keep knitting with 1 fewer stitch. Like, who cares? And I don't have the level of patience where I'll like go back and find where I messed up to have not the right number of stitches. Like I just can't be bothered, whatever. So I just don't worry about it usually. I mean, if it's a situation where it matters, like if there's a texture pattern that has to be repeated over a certain number of stitches or something like that, obviously I will concern myself with that, okay? But if it's just like a little off, or if I realize that one of my German short rows I like turned 1 stitch too early, the next one I'll just turn 1 stitch later, like whatever. And again, gift knits, I'm a little bit more fastidious about this. Or honestly, not even really, because who's gonna notice, literally? If you're 1 stitch off, whatever. Anyway, that one, habit number 7, absolution. Habit number 8, wearing things with unwoven ends. And I have a confession to make to you all, which is that this sweater currently has unwoven ends and I'm wearing it. This one, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think also absolution, because who cares? First of all, I'm wearing it, so why do you care? And sometimes you're just really excited to wear something and you don't want to weave the ends in, or you don't have time, you want to wear it to a specific like event and you don't have the time to weave the ends in beforehand. This has happened to me a couple of times, you guys, because I'm historically have been pretty bad at time management. Okay, whatever. I think this is fine. It's not like your sweater is gonna fall apart because you wore it once with some unwoven ends. And I'll always weave in like the ones that would be visible with wear, like the ones around the cuffs and the hem and everything. But other than that, whatever. I'll weave them in eventually, I'm sure, when I have a spare moment. But like, this is just one of those things where I'm like, I'm too type B to care about it. I'm type A in regards to some things, like when it comes to like school, my career, like those things. I'm type A in regards to those things. But knitting, you guys, I do this for fun. So this one, habit number 8, absolution. We're done. Okay, habit number 9. My verdict on this might come as a surprise to some, because my habit number 9 is taking long breaks from projects. And I think this needs to change. I think this needs to be a resolution. And I'm gonna tell you why. This past year, I took 2 long breaks from projects. And the first was my Campanula tee. And the second was my mosaic sweater. My Campanula tee is now finished. My mosaic sweater is still unfinished, but I have made progress on it recently. All I have left to do are the sleeves. I've finished the body. And in general, I think if you are really not feeling a project, you're frustrated with it, take a week or 2 off, like work on something else. That's totally fine, and I'm gonna continue doing that. I think the issue for me comes in when I take like many weeks / month long breaks, because what happens then is, and I take pretty detailed notes, so it's not like I don't remember where I am in the pattern. It's just that it feels really intimidating to get back into something after being away from it for that long. And I don't know why. I think it's just because I feel like I can't remember what I'm doing, or, you know, I have to like rememorize the stitch pattern or remember like all these little things. I think it just creates a real mental block for me. And then it makes it even more unlikely that I'm gonna get back into that project. And the second reason is because I have found that both of the projects that I've done this with, my tension has changed. And I think this is because I've made quite a lot of progress over the last year in terms of my knitting skill. And so my tension has changed like to a larger extent. And hopefully from now on, like it won't change as much, just because I feel like my like skill level has kind of stabilized a little bit. But yeah, my tension changes, and I just want to remove that variable if possible. This introduces a lot more variables than I think are necessary. So I'm gonna try and limit my breaks to like 1 or 2 weeks, because sometimes you do need a break from something. Sometimes you're just not feeling it. Sometimes it's really making your hands hurt. Sometimes you need to take a break and decide, like, do I even want to continue with this project? All of that stuff, totally valid. But I think when it comes to like super extended breaks, it's not good for me. It's not good for me. So that one, habit number 9, resolution. Habit number 10, my last and final habit, which I added just before I started this video, is knitting my sleeves too short. This, I think, has to be resolution, because why am I walking around with my sleeves up here, right? These sleeves actually, good length. I'm satisfied with the length of these. I just have a really hard time knitting my sleeves to the appropriate length because I get so bored. I'm like, I want to be done with this. I want to cast on something new. Yeah. So I just need to knit things to the appropriate length. That's all. It's really quite simple. And I think being better about blocking my gauge swatches will also help with this, because then I'll know. Like, I always trick myself And I'm always like, oh, well, like, yeah, the sleeve is too short now, but like once I block it, it'll be fine. No, girl, it won't. It won't. So I think if I am more consistent about blocking my gauge swatches, that will make things better for me, because I'll have a better idea of how much I can actually expect the sleeves to grow. I think that's a resolution. Habit number 10, knitting sleeves too short, resolution. And our final tally, let me do this, okay? Out of 10 habits, 5 are resolutions, 5 I have decided to absolve myself for. So that's a good balance, okay? I didn't do that on purpose. It just turned out that way. And let this be a lesson. You don't need to change everything. Sometimes it's fine to keep doing things the way that you're doing them. But sometimes you do need to kind of reflect, reevaluate, make some changes. And that's fine. Anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed this little video. I feel like I talked kind of longer than I intended to. I intended this to be like a really short, breezy video, and I might have made it longer than I expected, but that's fine. I like to yap, what can I say? Anyway, I hope you are all having a lovely start to your new year, and you are super excited about all the projects that you have planned for this upcoming year. I have some projects I'm so excited about. And yeah, 2025 was a really good year of knitting. I think 2026 is going to be even better, especially once I start knitting my sleeves to the appropriate length. And if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. You can also watch the other 2 videos I have on my channel, which are just 2 knitting podcast episodes where I talk about, you know, what I've been working on and all of that good stuff. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for staying to the end. Love you. And hope you have a lovely new year. And remember to comment what you were knitting on while watching this. And maybe if you have any knitting bad habits that you want to change in the new year, or that you're going to keep doing, because you can live your life. Anyway, that's all from me. I'm going to shut up now. Bye.